Good news for the Knights on the eve of their clash with the Roosters. Hooker Scott Carter, who had his jaw broken in 3 places by Saints prop Peter Spring, has had the wires removed and is back to solid food. But his comeback is on hold until next year.
Asked me when the grand final was, and I said, 23rd of September. He said, well, if you're going to ask me when you come back, that's when it is.
After suffering a mid-season slump, the Newcastle Knights really have come back to good form, with great performances against Canberra, Canterbury, and last week against the Cronulla Sharks at Caltex Field. But coach Alan McMahon and Andy Stroups are vitally aware that they must defeat Easts, the Gold Coast and Souths in the next 3 games, starting this Sunday with the Roosters.
We're not taking anybody lightly. You can't take anybody lightly in this competition, and Eastern Suburbs, they'll click one day, and hopefully it won't be on Sunday, but we're treating it with a lot of care.
The existing railway station is an unimposing building which, over the passage of time, has become increasingly inappropriate. The planned replacement will improve passenger facilities and also attract new customers to the City Rail service. Work on the 3-storey complex will start next February and should be completed within 18 months. The station will offer retail space, improved access for buses and cars, and provide covered walkways and improved security measures. This is the first of several stations on the City Rail line to be upgraded. Gosford is the busiest station on the Central Coast, and demands for public transport are expected to soar as the region grows. City Rail General Manager John Zantiotis says the station will satisfy calls from the public for improvements.
They've been waiting for a major upgrade here for the last several years, and they're quite excited about that we've bit the bullet and doing something about it.
The station will be linked to a major parking block on the western side of the line, offering 700 new parking spaces. The entire project is one of the biggest in City Rail's $105 million 5-year station upgrading program. Design work is underway and tenders for the project will be called later this year.
Hello everyone, time to talk sport this Friday night, and the Friday night just before Wimbledon 1990 starts. And I suppose Wimbledon 1990, as most people would be expecting, will be dominated by the kids, Steffi Graf, Jennifer Capriati and Gabriella Sabatini, along with Monica Seles. The men's, I suppose, when you look at Edberg and Becker, they're still pretty young men. But Hale Irwin proved through the week that age isn't the only barrier, and the oldies are still hanging in there.
Long, long ago, George Foreman crushed Joe Frazier and became heavyweight champion of the world.
George Foreman electrifies the boxing world and becomes the new heavyweight champion.
Nolan Ryan pitched the first no-hitter of his career. And Hale Irwin won the U.S. Open for the first time.
And there goes the ball.
Almost 2 decades have gone by, but in the past week, Hale Irwin, George Foreman, and Nolan Ryan all were young again. Today, at the age of 45, Hale Irwin celebrated his 3rd U.S. Open championship. Saturday, at the age of 41, George Foreman earned another shot at the heavyweight title.
Youth and enthusiasm are great, but age and craftiness is really fine for me. A 2-0 pitch.
And last Monday, at the age of 43, Nolan Ryan pitched the 6th no-hitter of his career. But the most remarkable athletic comeback of the week was performed by an ex-boxer, a former Sandlot baseball player named Edward Villela. In the 70s, Edward Villela was the principal dancer of the New York City Ballet. He retired 11 years ago from what is arguably the most demanding of all physical tests, big league dance. Last week, at the age of 53, Villela came back in Jerome Robbins' Watermill and heard the cheers once more.
Now that's something that I would probably continue to sell my soul to the devil for. When you stand center stage and you have an ovation, the warmth, the welcome is something you can't replace.
Ryan, Foreman, and Irwin couldn't have said it better.
And also this time on a Friday night, drawing towards the end of the month, we're going to bring you the hits of the month.
AFL fans got dressed up and got right behind the goal umpires at the State of Origin match between New South Wales and Victoria.
Great play by New South Wales.
More footy humour when Peter Sterling, minding his own business, had the ball lob in his lap in an offside position. Martin Bella's humour definitely wore thin when crunched by the opposition, then on all fours by a teammate.
They nearly fall over the top of
The month's most ridiculous decision, the Swans' Greg Williams suspension for this fearsome blow to the breadbasket. The month's footy Oscar goes to this Soviet player attempting to con a penalty. No con job here. This was a genuine one-on-one soccer collision. The month's Poor Judgment Award, Peter Fitzsimon's invitation to the French. He didn't count on more than one turning up.
And they want Fitzsimons badly.
Peter then went into kamikaze mode.
Drives in with his shoulder.
He became the Missile Man.
Oh,
Peter missed, but not those under the bomb. In the Don't Argue department, they don't come any better than these.
It's like a Mack truck up against another one.
Red Faces Award, one to a St George player for this pass, but he wouldn't have felt as bad as the former Manly fullback.
Clyde says thank you.
Now the bell ringers, legal and otherwise.
Everyone was playing up to the quarterback inside of it.
A new category, the Footy Jugglers Award, or are they moonlighting buskers?
It out. Lambert the target. The Walker over the top. Izzard taps it ahead.
And finally, while AFL fans can't work out a forward pass, no such problem in figuring out an Aussie rules behind.
Here's some great action there from the world of footy, and joining us from the world of football, rugby league indeed, Sleeman, Sam Stewart, and Sam, you must agree, gee, those Australian rules footballers have got some skill, haven't they?
Yeah, they've got some skills, right? They're sort of trained along the same way we are in football, and sort of bred into them, and no doubt they can get up there and get those high marks and as well as kick those ball a fair way. And in fact, we've been trained by some of their kickers to kick the ball for both distance and for accuracy. So, we do take a bit from their sport.
Next Wednesday in Parks, Australia play France. How much by Australia?
Well, I don't know. I think I would go for France.
Sam, fair dinkum.
Well, it depends.
What are you going to give us, 20 start, 30 start?
It might be a French referee. No, obviously, France are going to be doing their best, but no matter what side, even though there's a lot of controversy about the Australian side being picked, you're looking at 30 to 40 points. But really, the French will give them a good go for the first 30 minutes and probably put the odd boot here and there.
Look forward to your company on Sunday.
We'll see you then.
Sam Stewart talking rugby league, and we'll be back with more Newsnight in just a moment.
Margaret Ilukol's story is a remarkable one. Savaged by a hyena at 8 years old, cared for by a primitive African tribe, taken to a sterile city hospital and left alone in a strange world, disfigured for life. It's a story larger than life, a story of strength and courage. Her book Child of the Karamajon recounts those life's experiences, and years of work culminated in tonight's official launch. But Margaret refuses to take all the credit for her book.
Fate had a hand in the story on a night in another part of the world. Secondly, the people who came to my rescue, members of the medical profession, Rotarians, the many host families, people involved in my education, they were all part of my story. All I had to do, and it wasn't easy, was to write it the way I lived it.
Margaret hasn't always been able to talk about her past. Recalling her experiences in order to write the very first pages was extremely difficult.
And I just came to a stage that I had to talk about it and just get it out of my system.
After its first week in the stores, the book is almost sold out. Booksellers are already lining up to order more copies.
Did you expect it to be as successful as it has been already after only a week?
Oh, well, apparently the book is doing so well in Newcastle that I didn't really expect it.
It looked as though it was going to be all too easy as Ashley Gordon crossed for his first try. But someone forgot to tell the Roosters it was a one-horse race and Deacon combined with Bush to stretch the Knights. From that move, Paul Vorton hoisted the ball high and the Roosters were in. Big lock Mike McLean was in everything and made some heavy hits on the Knights. And just before half-time, fullback Wayne Portlock lengthened East's lead. On the resumption, Mark Glanville and Glenn Miller combined to get the Knights back on track. Back came the Roosters through Salvatore. More misery for the Knights as hard-working prop Peter Johnson was carried off and he will have precautionary x-rays for soreness just above the ankle. Jono's departure signalled Slam and Sam's come back to the top grade and from then on it was all Newcastle and Ashley Gordon scored his second after good lead-up work by Glanville and hard-working second rower Tony Butterfield. "30 seconds later, Gordon scored his 10th try for the season in classic circumstances. The Knights hadn't finished and Sargent put Paul Marquette in. And the piece de resistance, Jeff Doyle completed the route.
The State Rail Authority has long been under fire from Mayfield residents over noise emission levels of the 81 class locomotive. At last night's meeting, the SRA outlined various strategies already in place to ease the problem. In October last year, the offending Hunter Valley trains were fitted with exhaust mufflers. Drivers have also been instructed to avoid shunting locomotives in residential areas. Brake shoe material which reduces squeal has been adopted for coal wagons and should soon be used on all freight wagons. But residents are still not happy.
The house shakes, the windows rattle, and we're wondering what can be done.
Member for Port Stephens Bob Martin was applauded when he stated what he saw as the real issue and its solution. Suggestions that the SRA will compensate for structural damage caused by noise vibration were received with cynicism.
Meanwhile, Knights General Manager Mike Armstrong is getting out the chequebook this week, hoping to retain some key players for the next 2 seasons. Try-scoring wizard Ashley Gordon, centre Robbie McCormack, David Boyd and new hooking sensation David Mullane are the only first graders yet to be re-signed. The Knights are on a roll with successive victories against some of the competition's glamour teams, and Mike Armstrong is expecting the players will be trying for some glamour wages.
I dare say they'll try to put that sort of proposition to me, Peter. It's, it's a bargaining process that we're going through, and I think you'll find everybody will come out on the right side of the coin, including the club.
Whatever the negotiations, the club must keep within the league's salary cap, which is expected to be down on last year's restriction of $1.4 million. On the local league scene, Lakes United lock Michael McKinnon has been suspended for 2 weeks after this tackle on a Toronto player last weekend. The former Knights player had pleaded not guilty.
It's the 5th annual dance festival and the biggest yet. 4 two-hour shows were needed for the infants, primary and high school students to perform items ranging from pop to this gymnastic gypsy dance by tea garden students. While Stockton Primary Monster Mashed and Broadmeadow High got into the swing. Backstage, preparations and nerves occupied many.
Well, I feel a bit nervous going on the stage, and I feel that I'm going to, fall over.
When the curtain went up, Andrew didn't miss a beat. Another group was also making a debut. Waratah Orthopaedic School rehearsed their hand dance for tonight's show. Is it good to go up on the stage?
Yes, and it's great. When the curtains come open, we have to, when the music comes on, we do it.
The production will visit Upper Hunter schools next month. The club's flagpole swayed to the weight of 2 new pennants in today's strong wind. The club won the number 1 and number 4 pennants in the Newcastle district competition. 188 sides play for 5 pennants, and the Warners Bay teams again showed their strength. The number 4 side won a hard-fought final against BHP, but the 2 teams were together again for a social game. The number 1s boast a winning combination that spans 3 decades, and in September they'll be playing for a state title.
Compatibility, be able to play together and playing together for the length of time that we have. Some of our schools have been playing together for 30 years.
You'll be going to Sydney for the state competition. What will the competition be like?
Very hard, but I feel that when you've played in Newcastle, I feel you get the hardest competition in Newcastle. That's the hardest one to win.
The girls were still on a high note today. Though senior members of the choir have already left for Wales, the juniors stayed behind to fine-tune those winning voices. Tuesday night's win is just one of a series of successes, but the Llangollen Eisteddfod in Wales marks their first international competition. But for many of the 83 Newcastle girls, the trip represents the first time away from their families.
I think getting billeted with the different families in the Llangollen would be exciting.
And have you ever been overseas before?
No, it would be really fun.
I'd say the companionship, choir's really close and I think it'll be nice to get a little bit closer.
After the Eisteddfod, they will tour Newcastle upon Tyne and sing at the city's Gateshead shopping centre before performing at Westminster Abbey next month.
The Hillside apartments are built beside a registered 100-bed nursing home which has medical staff on hand around the clock. Finishing touches were hurriedly being completed today for tomorrow's official opening. The complex looks like a hotel resort with a communal dining room, lounge and billiard room, spa bath and landscape gardens. There are 47 double and single strata-titled apartments which range from $76,000 to $145,000. Jennings, who designed the concept, believe they have combined privacy with security. The Hillside apartments are the first of 12 similar developments that will begin to appear across New South Wales over the next few years.
This Maitland Street was the property of Molly Morgan way back in 1829, together with 65 hectares that spanned out from the city's Heritage Mall. So it was the perfect spot to recreate Molly's trial, which ended in 14 years' transportation to New South Wales. The pageant featured town crier Graham Keating, a magnificent Cobb & Co coach, plus the music of Newcastle folk band Kickatinalong. Pupils from St Joseph's College Lochinvar highlighted the historical injustice that led to Molly's notoriety.
Molly Morgan, I have considered the evidence and can only remark that you have behaved in a wanton manner.
The many times married Molly became known for burning down houses when her husbands were asleep inside, and rumours have abounded that she was a brothel madam. So Central Coast actress Zelma Ryan was invited to play Molly and put the record straight. She became the owner of the Angel Inn and gave money to start off a school at Wallace Plains, unofficially known as Molly Morgan's Plains, before becoming the township of Maitland. Totally convinced of her good character was city centre manager Barbara Irvine, who organised the pageant in only 2 months.
In those days, to survive, you had to do some things that perhaps weren't looked on as being very nice things. But no, she was never a brothel owner from anything that I've been able to come up, and that has been through research by historians.
The show was part of Molly Morgan Week. Tomorrow the mall will be transformed back in time to a ye-old sidewalk sale day. On Saturday the mall will host a bullock train procession. Rebecca Skinner, NBN News.